I'm going to be focused on y'all.
Okay.
Hi, thank you for joining us. This is a disclaimer for human sexuality and sex therapy. This is not a real session. It is a mock session for class. And if you have any questions or whatever, that is fine, but it is not a real session. Thank you for joining me, Kevin and Carolyn. It's good to finally get to meet you, and I've seen everything on paper, but now I get to see people.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship.
Well, we've been married 28 years now. In July, or is it 27 going on 28?
I don't remember.
A long time.
It's over 25.
And
That's right.
Over 25 for sure. And we've got one son.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through a difficult time trying to have him. And we waited until we were in our 30s,
Mm-hmm.
trying to have enough money to have kids, which ultimately you never do.
Right.
But we were naive. And then whenever we were trying to have him, we had a lot of complications. We went through a couple miscarriages. We worked on, we did foster care through the state. And we actually had a young little girl that we were looking to adopt and some different things like that. So it's been a long process for us. And then after we were able to have him, considering everything with the miscarriages and whatnot, he was high risk from the moment that we conceived to the moment that he came to us. He had his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck 3 times and was just high risk. But during that process, we had a lot of ups and downs and whatnot, and trying to get pregnant. We looked at fertility drugs, and we were looking at when we were done standing on our head and just whatever you could think of to conceive. And ultimately, God did bless us. And after that, we were not able to have any more.
Right.
So I did get a vasectomy.
Okay.
Due to the fact that she had some medical issues and wouldn't allow her to become pregnant because it would have affected her health.
Right.
So with that being said, that's pretty much the history of where we're at and kind of where we're at today.
Not meaning to overshadow by any means, but I went through fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into preterm labor at 4 months with the only son that I had that I gave birth to. And he was actually born at the 8th month, which technically is 8 weeks early.
Right.
So I thoroughly understand the process, the medical treatments,
It's
the
a long
medications.
process.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn, how did that affect you? I mean, because
Well, I felt like there was something wrong with me, first of all, because I was the problem. He was tested, and we knew it wasn't him, so we knew it was me.
right,
And you feel a lot of self-loathing, and
it makes it hard.
it makes it hard because it was my fault, and he always wanted kids, and it would be my fault that we couldn't have them and everything. So it was hard, and it was frustrating because you see these young moms that have no business having kids, and they have kids, and you'd be the perfect parent, haha, if
You are the perfect
if
parent.
you could and everything. So yeah, it was hard, and sex becomes a chore when you're going through that because, like you said, you do everything in every direction and every which way you can, trying to make it be the one that works.
And you're on a calendar, and you're
Yes.
on, you're taking your temperature, and you're doing all of these things
Right.
that it's the movies depicted as a humorous point of, honey, you got to come home and have sex right now.
But it's really like that.
It's really like
It's
that.
really
Yeah.
like that, and the thing about it is, when we first started that process, I was like, yes, this is fantastic, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. But after you get into that, it definitely changes, and it's not a true romantic event.
Mm-mm.
It is
It's a job.
a job or a task, and it's just like, okay, hurry up, we got to do this right now. We got limited time and such as that.
So, given that dynamic, how did that affect you biblically? Because I know Christian-wise, you follow the Bible. I know Christian-wise that your son has been raised through the church, and beyond the cross and all of that. So fertility doesn't necessarily fit into that picture because of the way that, you know, Moses and Sarah waited forever.
Right.
Yep.
Well, what's funny is we went ahead and did the fertility, and we went through it and everything, and then we gave up. I was done with it. I'm not doing anymore. I'm done. And he was the same way. We had been through so much, and we tried, and we just gave up. And about 2 months later, I was pregnant with nothing.
No.
It was
Yeah.
just God's sin. And so, biblically, he showed us that it would be in his time, not in our time.
Right.
Exactly.
So it
I didn't
ended
get
up that way.
lucky. I went through 19 days of Pergonal injections twice a day. Went through all the HCG, all the yuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, the last test they did, the sperm could not get through. So they literally had to artificially inseminate me twice with my husband.
Wow.
And I think at that moment, that's what killed our marriage. Even though we had a beautiful child out of it, that was the final straw of, and he said, you're broken. He said, you are broken beyond belief. And to him, like you and I already felt, that pressure, it became a reality. We divorced 5 years later. But at any rate, so moving past, because I know Dawson is in junior high, going into high school.
Yep.
He's good health. He's athletic. He has a girlfriend. I mean, you know, all of these things that come along with raising children.
Right.
So going through what you went through to where you are now and the traveling that you do, what has happened with your personal lives together, your sexuality together, since you've been together so long?
Well, whenever our son was younger, and still somewhat to this day, it was challenging to be able to have sex just because he was awake or he was there and such as that. And so a lot of the spontaneity actually kind of left. And so it was hurry up and I'm in the bathroom and lock the door and you know, we're right here in the bathroom. And you know, that was fine for real quick, you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, and we got our needs done, but it wasn't necessarily fulfilling,
Right.
like, you know, it was prior to that. Now, since he's become older and he's involved with a lot of different extracurricular activities, it becomes easier because then we can, you know, come home and not have to worry about whether someone's going to come knock on the bathroom door or anything like that, and just can really relax and make sure that we're both taken care of.
Right.
And so it's actually, you know, in some ways gotten better, but you know, you've still got that to where, you know, you maybe wake up in the middle of the night and you've got that urge, but you know that he's in the other room and he's a light sleeper, so you just don't act on it until maybe a couple of days later, whenever he's gone.
You know, I wonder if that's why so many years ago when they built homes that the parents' house was on this end, the room was on this end, and the kids was on this end. You know, I really wonder if that was part of the construction
Right.
for that time
Yeah.
between parents. But modern homes today, you're side by side and the walls are paper thin.
Yeah. Well, you've got that. And you know, the funny thing about that is on this last trip that I just caught up of, we went to an Amish farm, and
That's cool.
they invited us into their house and everything else, and it was so unique because it's just where they eat dinner and everything else is just one big open room. And you know, you've got the women all over here sitting, and they've prepared all the meals, and then they sit back and let all the men go through, and they sit at the table, and then the women will come and fix their plates and all that. But their bedrooms or their bedroom, it's just all one area also. At least it was in this particular instance. But yet they've got a pot full of kids.
Right.
And so you sit there and you kind of scratch your head and say, okay, how did that happen without these kids, you know, understanding
Well, you
what's
know those
going on,
cornfields
such as
out back are good for something.
Apparently.
that. Well, they had a big barn. They had plenty of hay in there. So
The big barn.
So, Kevin, I know you travel with your job, and I know that you're gone for 5 to 10 days at a time.
yeah, typically it'd be closer to 3 to 5 or 6 days
Okay.
at a time. And and then I may be home for a couple days on the weekend, and then maybe have to be gone again that following week. But
Right.
we try to make it to where, fortunate enough to where I can set my schedule, and so I try to make sure that I'm home at least 2 or 3 days
Right.
between trips, if not more.
How does that affect your spontaneity with your relationship? Because I know you have a strong relationship with your son too.
So the way that we've got things, and in our house, we're blessed in the fact that I make a good living, and so Carolyn doesn't have to work,
Right.
and so we are definitely blessed that way. But because of that, she also does work outside of the home, and she typically has always worked on Saturdays. And whenever Dawson was younger, we actually homeschooled him. And as you can imagine, whenever you're with somebody, regardless of who it is, you tend to butt heads after a while. And so this was her relief. It was her time to be able to spend time with other adults and such as that, of being able to work on Saturdays. So that actually worked out really good, because Saturdays is he and I's day, and that's when we'll do whatever it is that we want to do, and we'll spend our time together.
Right.
But then other days it allows Carolyn and I to be able to spend time together as well. And Sundays is always a rough day, because we get up, we go to church, and then we go out to eat, and then we come back, and we got a few hours, and then it's time to go back to church again.
Yeah.
And so typically on that day she's doing laundry and everything else, and as far as cooking meals and whatnot, I'll take turns, she'll take turns, and so we alternate that.
Right.
But as far as the spontaneity goes on that, we've typically it may be a lax to where it may be 2 or 3 weeks,
Right.
and then it might be a couple days in a row.
Right.
It just flexible, and I think that's changed with years, and as we've both gotten more mature and such as that. Whenever we first were dating, it was nothing to 2 or 3 times a day.
I was gonna say
At least.
we were younger then.
Every day. And, then when we first got married, it was the same way. And then as,
After we had a kid,
times
it
progressed.
was all
after we
different.
had our son, yeah, it changed. But, it's getting better, for sure.
Hormones change when you're getting pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and hormones change after you're pregnant. And then, of course, you have stuff like menopause and everything else. And now I'm not really sure what your ages are as far as which part of the spectrum you're in. But having female problems, you probably still go through hot flashes and that feeling of, I'm just not having it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have a menstrual cycle every month or not, it's just the hormones, the female hormones all on
Right.
their own.
Right. And I'm on medication that affects your libido. So mine's not near as strong as his, just because of medication I take. And it's just part of it. But back to him traveling, I was going to say, it's funny, but sometimes him being gone gives us, we talk on the phone a lot, and we spend extended periods of time just talking. Where sometimes when they're home, you're busy doing things
doing
and you're
everything.
not sitting and talking. So sometimes when he's gone, we spend more time actually talking than we do when he's at home, because we have that one-on-one and we're not busy doing things around the house or going here or going there. We're
But
just on the phone visiting.
And with that, you actually gain, whenever you're not always together, the heart grows fonder, and so you actually have more of appreciation than if you're always there.
Do you think that enhances your sexuality together as a couple? Because you have that foundation. You've been
Yeah.
together 20-something years.
Right.
So, where people usually get more relaxed or complacent, you haven't.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
That's
I
true,
think so.
because when he comes home, you're excited to see him, and it's kind of new and it's fresh and everything, and you look forward to that time together. Where if we were always there,
Yeah, it wouldn't
you
be
take it
as-
for granted,
yeah, exactly.
and everything that wouldn't
You
be
get-
the
Yep.
same, right?
Yep, you take everything for granted regardless of what
So-
the situation is.
If there was one thing that you could change to make it more than as we've gotten older and things change and the desire changes, and it becomes more about holding hands and talking and the general
Right.
the companionship
Mhm.
more than the actual sexual intercourse part. If there was anything that you could do to change where you are right now, what would you do?
Hmm.
It's kind of a catch-22 for me, because I would say that we would have more alone time. But saying that, being the mother of an only child, I don't want to let him go.
Mhm.
So I want more alone time with Kevin, but at the same time I want to hold on to Dawson, because I know the time's coming when he's going to be gone,
You're gonna be an empty nest.
and I'm not going to have him, and so I hate to say that I want more time alone with him, because then I think, oh, but that means my baby's gone.
Mhm.
So it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard.
It is.
But yet, that's really, we don't have that much alone time. And I know it's going to get more and more, because he's going to branch out further and further away from us into adulthood. So what would you say?
I don't know. That was pretty good. I mean, that's not necessarily where my mind was going, but
Let your mind go wherever you want it to.
That scares me.
I don't know.
No, now I'm intrigued. Let's go.
Yeah.
Gloves off.
Good Lord.
I mean, as far as the spontaneity and such as that goes, I'm okay with that. Your point on the alone time and everything, that makes perfect sense, and I agree with you, because whenever he's gone, he's going to be gone. I guess where I was going was just thinking about just different styles or something like that, or changing things up a little bit. Not always having to be the one that is the suggester or the
He
instigator.
basically wants me to jump his bones.
Sometimes that would be nice.
Yeah,
and
that
others,
would be his.
Well, let me stop you right there for 1 second. How was it before you were married?
Oh, I was the horn dog.
But was he always the instigator?
Most of the time, he was a whore.
Okay. But things were different because of, and again, that comes back to that age thing.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, I love your relationship, because not only do you have time apart, but when you come together, it's genuine time together.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one thing I could challenge you on, is to realize that you really have a beautiful relationship of time together.
Right.
Is it enough? No. Because we are getting older. We don't want to get to that point where we look back and go, man, I should have had more sex. We really don't. So the challenge would be how to change it.
Right.
Your son is 14,
Yeah, he'll be 15 in December.
and could you go with your husband on a trip once or twice to where you had more time alone?
Well, maybe. Definitely once Dawson's out of the house, that's one thing that we talk about,
Mhm.
is when he travels and Dawson's out of the house, that I'll definitely go with him and everything, and
I mean, I know you have animals. I know you have dogs, so you have to have someone who can help you with your pets. And my thinking on this side of the table is go with him one day.
right.
If it's a close enough trip where you could go for a couple of days, allow Dawson to take care of the animals, and that builds that independence for him too,
Yep.
because then he is taking care of himself.
Right.
And I'm sure that there's a neighbor or a family member or something that could be close enough
Mm-hmm.
that would be comfortable for you and your husband for that time.
Right.
And we live in the age of cell phones, FaceTime, whatever. If they don't
Absolutely.
know what time you're going to call, there's nothing to hide.
Right.
Right.
So I guess that would be my challenge, or a goal would be to take a trip with Kevin, because then you get the access to her jumping your bones per se, and she gets the access of more one-on-one time.
Sure.
Sure.
How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Could you do that, Carolyn? Are you at a point with your relationship with Dawson?
Maybe in the next year or two when he's a little bit older.
Well, I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that he's not sexually active to where you have to worry about that aspect.
No.
No.
So
it's not.
maybe if you start now and you're building that trust, that line of communication with him in the home, away from the home, you're starting to be that empty nester without being an empty nest.
nester, yeah.
It may be better for all three of you.
Mhm.
Just an idea. Trust me, I have a 14-year-old that's going to be 15, and I get the hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, that responsibility is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yep.
And it's a responsibility for the two of you as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Because there may come a time, I know you've had health issues, you've been through fertility issues, there may come a time when sex is not part of your regimen for medication, one reason or another. So while you have the time, what can you do with it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to give you a homework assignment, my homework to you would be the same as your goal. Figure out a trip when you're not going to be too far away from Dawson in case there was to be a problem, and go.
Right.
Make some memories together that you can bring home to Dawson and show him what you did, and maybe entice him to take that trip one day.
Sounds good.
What are you thinking, Kevin? What's
No,
going through your
no.
mind?
I think that sounds good. I don't have any issue with that.
I mean, I'm not
that
sure how
goal
far
or
you
that
travel,
goal.
so.
All over the
All
U.S.
over
and
the
Canada.
United States.
So
Canada
there's
right now is beautiful with leaves. It's
I'm
time to go.
sure. I'm sure it is.
actually there's no leaves up there right now, and you get into Minnesota, there's no leaves. But then you start getting into Missouri, such as that, then you see leaves changing. But then you get down to Dallas, and it's all green. And I experienced all three of them just in this last week.
And you know, that's hard on you too, sexually. To be honest.
Because he's tired.
You're flying,
Yeah,
and you're
there's-
tired.
exactly.
And, I don't know about you, but swelling and just being crammed in a small seat, and sometimes the last thing you want is that close, intimate connection.
Just
So
kind of want to unwind.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's times that I'll get home and I'm just like plumb exhausted, and I'll go to bed early, and then I'll sleep all night, and then wake up the next day, and I'm good.
Mhm.
And then there's times that I'm more refreshed, and it may have been a long time, and I'm just like, we need to get Dawson out of here, and
I need an hour.
Exactly. And so, and then we're good. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But again, we work through it and make the best of it, the best way that we can.
Well, from what I hear on my end, number one, congratulations, you're a great couple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is probably one of the easiest sessions I've had to do, as far as there's not a whole lot of trouble, but then there is trouble. But it's workable.
Right.
Mhm.
You're blessed.
Yes, we
Period.
Yeah.
You're blessed. And so, I encourage you, goal-wise and homework-wise, to find a way to start and have a little bit of time one-on-one to where you both can get that one little need before you don't have that option.
are. Right.
Sure.
And I say that because even once Dawson's gone, and maybe you stay home more, you still may not get there.
Yeah.
Because then you're living with each other day by day, and the dynamics of your relationship change.
Right.
Along with age, along with empty nest, it just, the list goes on
Goes
and
on.
on. So,
So basically, what you're saying is whenever we get older, she's going to be cranky, and I may not want to be close to her.
well, no, I would probably tell her it would be on the other shoe, but
You're going to be the cranky one.
Yeah.
I just think that the dynamics change a great deal.
Of
Yes.
course, yeah.
And the emotions that come with being an empty nest, and she's going to be an empty nest home alone.
Right.
So that communication's going to change. I just see a whole lot of possibility that could change your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start and do it little by little now,
Yeah.
that
it won't be-
dynamic
it
goes
won't be
away.
as big of a
Right.
transition.
you'll still be, what am I going to do? I don't have a kid here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And my individual goal would be for you to have a hobby between now and that time. You know, even if it's knitting, I color like crazy. I have coloring books everywhere. I color.
Mm-hmm.
But something that gives you a zone out so that you're not missing him and you're not missing Dawson and trying to figure out, why am I the only one in this house?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
because
talk about that.
days get really long, and we've been on the phone, you know, whenever he's been, you know, at an activity or he's over there with one of his friends, and she's just like, oh, is this going to be my life? You know, and I'm just like, no, you know, whenever he's gone, you can come with me or this, but you know, then there's also going to be some trips that she's not going to have that flexibility on because of the situation of what I'm doing or whatnot, and
you
she's not
also
going to
have
be able to go.
animals.
When we have our
And
animals.
you got the animals and
um,
whatnot, so it's going to be a challenge. And so yeah, you know, to your point, you know, that's why she started to do taking on more responsibility at her job and working more often. You know, now with what she's doing, we've got a tremendous amount of flexibility. So she works essentially 3 days a week, but she's off whenever he's out of school, and if he takes any breaks, she's off during those time frames and such as that. So she's got a tremendous amount of flexibility with her job, and hopefully as we move forward and with life, she'll still have that flexibility so that there'll be some times that she can go on trips, but then if she can't, then she can still stay and still
just-
work also. So
I guess between now and, let's just say, the next time that we meet, think about talking what that looks like. You know, what would it look like to work Monday through Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
fly out on Friday, spend a weekend, come back? You know, what would your life look like at that point?
Mm-hmm.
And I direct that more to you than Kevin because he is already adjusted to coming and going.
Coming and going.
You know, so think about that. You know, you said you take medication that alters your libido. There's nothing wrong with that. But what is that going to look like 2 years from now for you?
Right.
How is that going to affect you then? Because if you can make adjustments now, you can ward off some of what you don't know by what you do know.
All right.
yeah.
Fair?
Fair.
Yep.
Okay. This has been great. I thank you very much.
You're
And again,
No
this
problem.
is not a real session. This is a classroom assignment for human sexuality. And we're saying good night.